Hi, it's Paulie here. So I want to bring you yet another gem from the Sons of Fun in Sweden. Tales from the Loop. This is by Friligan, Swedish company. And this, I've been eyeing this up for a while. It's got the most beautiful artwork I've ever seen. It's just stunning. So there's a basic starter set. It comes in this incredibly sturdy box. And it's an any winner and yada yada squee. But this is a game set in the 80s that never was. So their idea is that during World War II, German and Russian scientists kind of discovered this maglev theory, which allowed essentially floating vehicles that ride on the Earth's magnetic currents to begin to be developed. Only works on the Northern Hemisphere for some reason, and it led to a group of sort of floating freighter and vessel designs coming in during the 50s and 60s and 70s, and some robotic advancements were also begun. So there's some tech differences to their world from ours. On the other hand, computers completely suck, and they're no better than they were in the actual 80s. But you've got this kind of layer of slightly fantastical technology over the perfectly ordinary 80s. So this game's running off 80s nostalgia. It gives you lists of what movies are showing, what songs are on radio, what cars people are driving, what food they're eating, what products are out, what's Fabo, what role-playing games are out at the time. Oddly enough, mine. Whee! But what they've then done is said you are playing a kid in this setting. So you are going to be somewhere less than 14 years old, somewhere in the kind of 9 to 14 bracket. Not quite sort of kids on bikes genre, but it's kids on bikes genre. So look, we've got a basic setup here where what they've done is they've given you some maps of different areas. Now there's two settings for this. They've set this in a Swedish zone, or they've allowed you to apply the whole area also to somewhere in the USA. So we have maps for both, lots of maps. And also in this box, pre-generated characters. So we've got tons of pre-generated characters. There are adventures, quick start rules. So all is good, however, and also you get some groovy dice. The game has hard copy books and some really nice judges' screens. So you've got these, it's got all the expected charts and tables and artwork and so on at the back. This is from a supplement which we'll go over. This is from Tales from the Flood. This is the second supplement that came out for this. But so the idea is that a giant collider loop has been installed under these islands in Sweden, and weird things have started to happen. There's been an experimental station, and you are living in one of the small towns kind of around where this station is. There are scientists that live there and so on, but some weird stuff happens, and there's experimental leakage. So this is supposed to be essentially a thing where your kids, and they push that daily life is kind of dull. You've got to go to school, you've got to go get your homework in. Mum and dad seem to be always fighting. Your sister is really annoying. Your big brother is basically doesn't want you following him around. They're trying to make daily life a drudgery, but you do have your friends who are the rest of the party, and you go off and you face mysteries. And what can happen with this loop is things like it is open little portals into other times. So there might be dinosaurs wandering around, or it's changing the way some of these electronics work. So some of the robots that are there repairing the facility, maintaining the facility or whatever, they might become sentient, or they might be going crazy, or strange things from other realities are coming through. Part of the setting that you have kind of drilled into is that your kids, and the kids don't actually die in the core in the path of the role playing. So you don't really have hit points. Velociraptors don't jump on you and, you know, tear your spinal column out. None of that. You get different conditions when you are beaten and so on. You can choose what kind of conditions happen to you. You can become tired, you can become frightened, you can become dispirited and these sorts of things, and you have to bring these back up again. As part of your character design, you get things like an anchor. Is there someone that you turn to when you're in trouble? If you spend time with your anchor, that recovers some of your conditions. So you love your dad, he's like the great anchor of your life, so you just spend some quality time with dad. Or you're the slightly freakish sort of kid that loves all the pop culture stuff, you hang out with the guy down at the comics store, he brings out some of the new games that have come out, you talk about D&D for a while, you feel better, you're not kind of frightened, or you're not as run down mentally anymore. So you buy into your world to recover from these things. So but it's kind of, the pitch of it was that you're going to be almost kind of Scooby-Doo like out there solving mysteries, and what we've got is the most utterly haunting artwork. It's just beautiful. Pictures of kids looking at these giant robots, weird robots kind of slumped against bits of the landscape, beautifully patterned velociraptors just kind of walking around. So this is the hardback main book with the Swedish loop. So cover right up there, these are the cooling towers outside the loop. So these kids have basically snuck into areas where they're not allowed to, hoping you can get down into tunnels and explore all these weird tunnels under there where there's weird stuff. But, you know, all through it we do have these artwork of these amazing locations and just strange occurrences. These weird technologies, inexplicable bits of junk that have been left around by people, things for kids to explore. They do have a very nice design system for scenarios, so they sort of link them together quite simply and say, all right, here is our problem, and we've got a series of clues pointing out the core of the problem, and these things will eventually lead you to a showdown with whatever has created the problem, and you may succeed or fail at that showdown, you may have to come back and try it again, and so on. So they do have a sort of a little formulaic way of doing things. You know, phase 1, or introducing the kids, phase 2, introduce you to the mystery. What's kind of nice is that the bad guys in this are not presumed to be kind of D&D style where they build a dungeon, they just wait for you to come and kill them. They react to what you do. So as the phases go on and as kids do things, the people who are causing you troubles, or, you know, whatever is happening, reacts and or gets worse. So if there's something somehow spreading through the computers that the kids are using at school, and it's like speaking to kids and turning them a bit crazy, as they gather evidence, they're getting sort of more scared, but this is spreading more, and this thing is starting to tell people to do things to get the kids in trouble, get them all grounded so they're not causing so much trouble, go out and plant stuff that looks like they cheated on their exams, get them locked indoors so they can't like foil our plans. So kind of a sweet idea, and that's perfect. I will say, however, this one, I feel it's been let down by the adventures that they've actually put into the book. You almost have to ignore those because they're killy adventures, rather than that kind of somewhat charming adventure that I just described. The ones that they've got in here are like things are out there actually murdering people, you know, underneath the school, something's been tearing the guts out of people and, like, you know, making copies of itself, and it's going to kill people and it's going to kill you, and you go down there and there's bodies wrapped in plastic hanging from hooks, and it's like, oh, wait. This is kids on bikes. You've just stepped into, you know, Psychopath Central. This is not. So I thought there was a lack of resonance between the geist of the beautiful artwork and the story structure that they wanted and some of the adventures. So I would suggest don't read the adventures. Screw them. You don't need them at all, because what they've set up there gives you more than enough traction to make up a far more charming, more lyrical world for these kids. It should be mysterious, be guided by the artwork, because that's what guided the whole game. There are some interesting supplements for this. So we got our friends the machines. So this is a scenario book, and again it's full of like artwork of these interesting technologies and landscapes, it's got probably about a dozen adventures in here, not quite as killy as the ones in the book. These are better and more evocative. So this one is a worthwhile buy. Again, heaps of interesting artwork. It's in that 80s setting that the main game is in, and I think this one's a goodie. Now we get to this. This is Things from the Flood. This moves everything on. So this isn't roleplay in this imaginary 80s. This is in the 90s. And this is a darker thing entirely, which is why we're now going to drink some black plum wine. So the idea is that this somewhat mysterious lyrical world of these strange technologies and these floating ships and so on. Something's happened. The magnetic field of the Earth has changed, and all of these great big floating ships have all kind of, those don't work anymore. Some horrible thing has spread into all of the robotic technology, leaking through the loop, and now robotic things and a lot of different electronics are growing these horrible kind of fleshy extensions and these horrific tendrils and eyeballs and bits and veins, and like, so this is horrible thing that's spread through from another dimension. There's conspiracy theories coming out about how this has actually been a triumph because something tried to invade and the government somehow stopped it, or the other way around, the government's put this out to try and stop something actually, you know, locking onto Earth, etc. And horrible water has flooded up from these loops. There are several of them around the world, and they've kind of flooded out all these areas. So the areas that you were adventuring in the other one, now they've been flooded. The towns have been destroyed. It's a wasteland. So this is a more desolate setting entirely. The world is screwed. Economy's busted. People live in kind of misery. Your computer keyboard's got horrible flashy bits and may try and kill you. Robots are going awry and might sort of, you know, eat you. Old experimental stuff that was once important has been left kind of rusting. But meanwhile, there have been other advances. So like other kids are kind of ignoring this stuff and they're out there trying to, like, you know, make their own robots and do their own thing. So it's a more hard-bitten setting. It's a more grungy setting. It fleshes itself out with all the pop culture stuff that was happening. These are the movies, these are the songs, etc. You know, it's got the cool technologies that are bopping around, and what has gone out of fashion, what hasn't, what developed from where. And so it's a harsher setting. If you wanted something that was a bit more horror tinged than that initial thing, you know, like, yeah, here we go, we've got like giant robots half taken over by fleshy things and everything's quite menacing. So a slightly different Geist to the mainstream Tales from the Loop. Depends on your taste of what you're planning on playing, and in this one you're playing teenagers, you're not playing kids, so you're all high schoolers. So different competencies for the characters. It's less that kind of sunny afternoons and riding on a bike, and it's more kind of like escaping school, listening to Metallica and trying to not get eaten by one of the local robots, really. So look, as a game, this has won a lot of awards. Game design wise, this is the standard Freeligan system. It's clean, it's neat, it's D6 run. It's skill is a number, characteristics a number, put them together, roll. You're looking for sixes for success. So very simple system, very clear. This is all about the setting. This is why it's gotten awards, and this is why it's a good game. So it's different. So if you want to run something that is mystery solving and has a sort of a wonderful lyrical kind of setting, a setting of mysteries, place where you might get things from other times, other places, other dimensions, things that you don't your characters just don't understand. They're just awe-inspiring and strange. Tales from the Loop. If you want to push that forward to a grungier setting where you're teenagers and there's floods and rust and giant broken machinery, and it doesn't have that air of hope and wonder, but now it's got a little more tinge of like environmental horror and body horror. Things from the Flood would be your choice there. So look, I think this is an excellent addition to anyone's games library. I think the artwork alone makes this a beautiful purchase to have, and it's incredibly evocative. It's a well done game. It may not be everyone's cup of tea, but if you were wanting to do like mysteries and so on, and you're a little bit tired of, say, the Call of Cthulhu kind of setting, which is very formulaic, this might be a better choice for you and your team. And it's certainly a clearer system. The system's very, very clean and very easy to get into. Give it a shot. Things from the Flood and Tales from the Loop. Excellent buys. Get hold of them and take a look. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Cheers.